You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome back to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this May 11th, 2020 evening. And Chris, just when 2020 can't get any worse, it gets worse again and again and again. We lost a great one, Luke Sandoe. Not with us anymore. Chris, I know I say this almost every week on the show. I can't believe I got to say another person has passed, but another person has passed, and a young one, 30 years old, 2 kids behind. And a lot of people in the bodybuilding community are very saddened by this, especially his training partner, James Hollingshead. I believe James and his wife found Luke, and I know you're very upset, obviously, being his coach. And talk to me. Give me your thoughts on it without giving me maybe what's going on. Just tell me what you're thinking. When you heard the news.
I was stunned. Ben Chow. Is it Ben Chow? I just call him Ben. Ben and Luke are like two peas in a pod.
Yeah, Ben, I should have mentioned Ben too. You're right.
Super close. Ben's there for every inch of his development from way back, and Ben had emailed me or WhatsApped me and said, "Can I call you?" And of course, I say no.
Yeah.
And he said it's about Luke, and I said, "Well, Luke can call me." And he said, Luke is dead. And it just, like everyone, you can't even put it into words,
You know what? You don't expect it from someone like him. And I think that's what was so shocking. When you hear like a Rich Piana died, it doesn't seem as far-fetched, as someone like who's like in the prime of their career. And
he's not even in his prime.
It's like Dallas McCarver, like same shock effect, I think.
Yeah, Luke wasn't even in the prime. He was like a baby, and that's how I treated him in some aspects. A baby just getting started. If you look back, like I told you, Dave, if you look back at his career, 2017, he does like the Arnold and the Vancouver, and he looks like, an amateur swimming against, sharks in these shows.
Well, it's interesting because Ed Connors told me, that he had told him to do the Arnold, and I was wondering why he did the Arnold that year, and I think Ed had got him the invitation.
He did.
And so because Ed really saw a lot of potential in him, and he wasn't. You're right. He looked like an amateur, but you could tell there was potential there.
Yeah, and within a year, he just like boom. 2018, he had the Arnold 4th in Australia, the Indy Pro, and then 2019, of course, he's 3rd at the Arnold and posing down next to Dexter for the Tampa win.
Right.
I mean, his everything in bodybuilding is trajectory. It's like I'll give you an example. When Jay's trajectory, it was like this, even though people didn't see it coming.
Sure.
Sean Roden's trajectory was like, and then it took off. Right. And once that trajectory takes off, your body just, and Luke's career was just getting started, and his trajectory from 17 to 19 was like straight up. And, outside of his trajectory in bodybuilding, the thing, people loved Luke for his sense. He was like the anti-Dorian. People compare.
In what sense?
People compare. He's from England. That's unique. That's the uniqueness. He's big, like, not like Dorian, but he has a couple signature pose. He does a pose like that last word, like Dorian, one of his idols copied him.
Mhm.
And people compare him to Dorian. And we always used to joke, the Dorian fans would go, like the hardcore fans would get so insulted. So I would always compare him to Dorian. I'd say, like in the hotel room, oh, kills Dorian. Kills Dorian. And, but he was the anti-Dorian in that Dorian was like an introvert and to himself and quiet and reserved. And Luke was the polar opposite, outgoing, always available. Not that it was a negative about Dorian, but Dorian was not always available to fans at all times.
He was never available to fans at all times, but he had a game plan that he was following, and he was very, very rigid and anal, and he knew what he wanted. You know, like sometimes they say, when you in your mind, when you could really, when you know what you want, you can create your reality. That's what Dorian did essentially.
Yeah. So
and what you're saying is Luke did the kind of the opposite. He was kind of like a guy who had the talent, but maybe didn't have the belief in himself that Dorian did for some reason.
No, actually, I'm saying Luke deep down inside had the belief in himself, and he was patient and knew things were coming for him. I'm just saying on a personality scope, he was the ultimate extrovert. Fans would come up to him and he'd stop and talk.
Oh, he had a great personality.
And talk to people and look you in the eye, and he would remember things. He'd remember, what Dave Palumbo said about so and so, or he would always talk about everyone who I helped. He talked to in depth. He knew everyone who I helped and people I didn't help, but he'd talk to people in depth. And what made him special outside his physique was his personality, his genuineness, his ability to connect with people, his ability to make people smile and laugh. He was very funny, very, very witty. He was probably like the only person I couldn't outwit. I would always text something witty to him, and it was mesmerizing to me. His reply, that's it. I'll send this to Luke and something funny. It could be like 5 a.m. when I'm up.
Right.
He text me back immediately something twice as funny.
That's great. So what happened? I mean, like, we know that it was, I think it's out by now that he committed suicide, which is very unfortunate. So I want to say that. I think, Chris, and it's important to say, I think, because I don't want people saying, "Oh, the steroids killed him," because that's the initial impetus that people have when a bodybuilder dies in his prime. Oh, the steroid. No, he had some demons that he fought with, psychological demons. As his coach, did you ever pick up on anything that was, maybe a little off or that he was not happy about in life?
Coaching Luke was like coaching a tiger compared to like training a tiger versus training a dog. A dog listens to you and, wants to. A dog is easy to train. A tiger is a little bit more complex. And the complex part with Luke is, when he would get to shows, his level of anxiety would rise to the point where, although he had a deep belief, I can be Mr. Olympia, that would be suspended like the last, week running into a show a lot of times, especially if I wasn't there. And there's anxiety, and then there's a little bit something else. And I always perceived like a little bit something else there in terms of a little level of edge that made me wonder sometimes, was he okay? But no, I don't mean like nowhere in my wildest dreams really, did I think that he had. It never dawned on me that he had such issues where it could lead to what it led to. I guess people closer to him were really close to him, like Ben.
Yeah, they knew.
They knew. And someone tipped me off to it once that he'd been struggling. I knew he was struggling going into the Olympia.
And when you say struggling, in what sense?
He wanted to pull out of the Olympia a couple times. He did Tampa. I mean, he had the big year, 2019, right? And
Right.
Anyone else, you'd go to the Arnold, get third, be posing down to next to Dex. You just can't wait to get to the Olympia. And although he couldn't wait to get to the Olympia, there was this underlying uneasiness of that it's of the weight of doing your first Olympia. There's the weight of doing the first Olympia for any athlete. It's always nerve-wracking, but it just seemed like it was a little bit bigger. One time, like he told me, I want to pull out, and I like he training a tiger. I hit him with a whip and said, you're not pulling out. Or I would kid and said, if you pull out, I'm gonna take your points and sell them to so and so who's next in line. And then he'd still want to pull out, and then I would actually say to him, pull out, don't do the show.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the Olympia, it was a I'd like to go out a week early. He was there a few days early, and it wasn't a comfortable scenario at all. It was.
What year was that? Was that this past year?
Yeah, the only year he's qualified for it. I knew something was bothering him heavily there, because mentally
He wasn't with it. 100%.
his head was not in the game at all.
Did you sense a sense of depression? And the reason we're talking about this, and I think this is important, is a lot. I've gotten more than 15 people who have contacted me and said, Dave, I think it's important that you talk about, when people have suicidal thoughts, because there's a lot of people out there like that. And these people who contacted me were people who had experienced that before, and they said that it's very important that you make this note, because there's a lot of people that don't know how to deal with this. And one of the things, I've had some funny, back and forths with, but the guy Johnny Bravo, I don't know if you've ever seen his station. He's got it's like Johnny Bravo Films or something like that. He did a remembrance on Luke Sandoe, and he actually used some footage from my tribute I gave to him. But he put up a film clip of Fouad interviewing Luke. I don't know if you saw this, Chris.
Mm-mm.
And in it, I think Fouad had asked Luke, "What's the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning?" It was like they were just doing some kind of goofy type of thing, and Luke wouldn't tell him. Luke's like, "Well, I don't really want to tell you the real answer," and Fouad was pushing him, because I don't think Fouad knew where he was going with it. He's like, "What do you mean? You're not going to tell me?" And he said, "Well, it's a very dark place. I don't really want to go." So he was actually, and then he went on to talk about depression, and that he was being treated, and he was going to be trying to take some antidepressants, and he couldn't get into the hospital, or he couldn't get to see the doctor because of this whole COVID quarantine 2 weeks ago or something like that. And so he never got to go on the medication that they were going to put him on. And a lot of people were speculating that they're blaming the health system in the UK and all this for that if he been able to go in and gotten medicated, maybe he would have felt better. It's if you feel suicidal, you have the type of thoughts like that, you got to go and seek professional help. It's very important. And if you need to be medicated, there's nothing wrong with that. If you have high blood pressure, you take high blood pressure medication, right? If you have depression, you take depression, antidepressants, and that's just the way it goes. That's what they're made for. They're made for people who legitimately need them. And I believe that Luke probably needed them. I don't know if it was a lot of people, are very depressed from this, quarantine. And, Luke's bodybuilding and his training at the gym was therapeutic for him, obviously, as it is for a lot of bodybuilders, myself included, when I was competing. So you get depressed and then you can't go to the gym. They basically take away the one thing that you really love the most. That could put you into a much greater depression, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree with. I agree. I mean, for anyone, I mean, you don't need to be depressed clinically to get a high from the gym. There's something about going to the gym, getting a great workout, the camaraderie, seeing people. It's therapeutic for people, even though they don't even know it's therapeutic. I mean, you don't go there and say, "Well, that was therapeutic." You go there to feel good.
Well, I think he knew that. I think that it was, even though, because I saw him in this, he had this really nice garage gym he had built for himself. And I'm thinking, this is great. It's better than what everyone else has. But if you're used to training a certain way, if you're doing 600-pound squats at the gym and you can't do that in your house, then that could be depressing as a bodybuilder, even though to the normal person, it would be like, but you got all this weight in your garage. What do you need to, have to go to the gym and do 600 pounds for, But it's different,
Yeah, well, you know what? Me and Sean went and did, Chris Lewis did a seminars in England last year. Luke was prepping for the Arnold. And we showed up at Luke's gym, and Luke was like the first one there and the last one. I mean, we were there all day long. And he hung out all day.
Oh, really? That's funny.
He loved it. And he talked to this person, that person. And it was my first time to really see him interact with a group of people for a long period of time. And he just loved the environment. And then he came and posed to me and Sean. Of course, I had told him like in 18, he said he wanted to do the 2019 Arnold. And I said, if you keep improving, you can be top 3, which blew his mind. And he posed for me and Sean came into the room. Sean I'd never spoken to Sean about it. And Sean looked at him for about 1/1,000,000th of a second, said, you're going to be first, second, or third. And
this was at the Arnold, before the Arnold.
Yeah, and Luke was just like stoked out of his mind. Then we went somewhere like 2.5 hours away to another seminar a couple of days later. Luke came again and hung out all day with us, and we just cracked jokes and Luke cracked jokes the whole entire time with people that he didn't know, with people who he did know, with fans, people who came up to him and said, I beat Luke at the 2011, such and such show. I mean, he was outgoing, which just goes to show you, really, you can, outwardly in public,
people put on a different face. Yeah,
you can show one thing, but inside, you're just reeling of pain. I wish I had known. I wish I had known anything, outside of going to the Olympia, knowing something was a little off. Between then and he was getting ready for a show here, and just the damn delays with the coronavirus, it was eating at him, and he'd send me some negative text, which I never got negative stuff really too much from him before.
Right.
It's like, is there?
So you had an inkling that something wasn't going.
Yeah,
It wasn't right.
I got an inkling that he was stressed out of his mind. Like, when's the show going to be? And I'd say, hold on.
Which to any normal, any person who's not having these issues would be like, well, who cares? You're improving, you're training, you're growing, you're still young. It's not like you're 38 years old and you only have a couple good years left. Most people would say, use this time, enjoy yourself, right? But for him, it was really bothering him a lot,
He had once sent me a text and said, "Is bodybuilding closed now?" Closed. It was an interesting statement. 4 days before he died, I'd never call anyone ever. And I called him on FaceTime, and it rang like 20 times.
Right.
And he picked up, and that's the first time I ever saw him at his house. And it was the day before he passed away.
Wow. What did he say to you on those?
I just said, how's everything going? I don't hear from you because I would only hear, I used to hear from him all the time,
Right.
And then it got less and less. And I know that he had taken a break from training.
Oh, really? He stopped training?
Well, I mean, in the gym, so he had taken, I think, a little bit of a break. And he gave me a tour of his house, and we joked, it felt like a little forced.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, he made the phone call quick, and that was that.
Which for him wasn't normal, right? You probably have to get him off the phone, right?
Well, I never call him, but when he texts me, I have to say, okay, I'm busy. I'm going to stop. Yeah, I have to go to sleep. I got stuff I got to do.
That's funny. So there was definitely some. How many people do you think out in our industry, Chris, if you said tomorrow, there's no more bodybuilding, that's it, cancel the sport, there's not going to be any more shows, you want to go to the gym and work out, great, there's not going to be any more competitions, how many guys would think about suicide? I bet you there's more people than you think.
Well, I don't think there's any more than people who are saying right now, like, you can't work because your job is shut down. I mean, it's whatever is meaningful to you when it's taken away.
Sure.
I mean, if your kids were taken away, Dave, you don't know how. I mean, if that's how meaningful,
I'd lose my mind.
You'd lose your mind. I mean, that's a saying. I would lose my mind, but we say it in jest. Oh, I'd lose my mind. You probably would lose your mind. You know what I mean? They said, what happened to Dave? He had it so together. Well, they took the kids away from him. Well, he lost his mind. Well, understandably so. He loved them so much. So when something that you love so much, and the thing about Luke is, a lot of people like bodybuilding, and Dave, when you're bodybuilding, and people can relate to this who compete, you think about it morning, noon, and night. I mean, from the food to every single time you go in front of the mirror, you pose. Right? You just want, am I full of flat, just off season, pre-contest, and you're fully involved with bodybuilding physically, mentally. And Luke was like that too. I mean, he loved bodybuilding. I'm inclined to say more than other people I know. He just loved it. He loved everything, and he loved the camaraderie of it, going to the gym, and he loved the training. He loved the training, and, even though he'd get stressed on contests, he'd love competing, and he loved making progress. And, that passion he had for bodybuilding is, he showed it in his videos and the way he treated people, in, the way he met beginners and treated them like they're a professional bodybuilder. All those things are so redeeming, or rather endearing qualities. It just makes it that more difficult, to absorb that he's no longer here. I mean, it's just, it's cliche. You can't put it into words. But you can't put it into words. The loss, of really a superstar in the making, an absolute superstar in the making. And I want to emphasize in the making, because what Luke was really patient the last 2 years. That means he didn't push his body. He didn't push. He pushed the envelope. Luke was not pushing envelopes.
Mm-hmm.
Luke was being very patient and mature with the process. Luke had, long-term goals that he wanted to accomplish very quickly, though. And, so from a competitive standpoint, he was checking the boxes in terms of what he needed and had to accomplish in a short period of time.
Did he put too much pressure on himself, you think?
I think he put too much pressure on himself in all aspects of his life. I think
which sometimes could take its toll on you if you feel that you have this much pressure all the time, even though to the average person it might seem like pressure. You work out in the gym, you compete in a body. Well, put pressure on anything.
Luke took losses very hard. His friends would tell you that. he just took losses hard. He had high expectations for himself. And, I tell everybody loses. Phil loses, Jay loses, Ronnie loses, Flex
Absolutely.
Wheeler loses. People lose shows. And most bodybuilders outside of, let's say, Phil and Flex, there's only a small handful win show. Jay, Ronnie, they probably win more than they lose. But
Right.
everyone else loses more than they win.
Sure. Sure.
And it's part of your overall development of a bodybuilder, how you deal with those losses. But I know he took those losses very hard and internalized them. And as somebody who's trying to help someone, trying to coach them, you can only tell them, but when they're internalizing the negativity, telling them doesn't do anything really. It's just like in one ear and out the other.
Sure.
It's different than when you tell someone and they absorb it and they take it in and take that as like advice and spin it around and move forward and set a new goal and try to accomplish that goal and enjoy trying to, go after that. But I mean, losses physically hurt him, I feel.
What do you recommend that someone do if you had to give a recommendation and if people are feeling like this? Because obviously there are people feeling this way, Well,
I mean, having said all that, feeling that way it's perfectly normal to feel down about yourself, and it's perfectly normal to feel.
Not all the time, Chris. That's not true.
No. It is, Dave. There's a lot of people feel down all the time. It's the depth of the down.
Well, but the point is if when you hit a certain point, you have to seek help. I mean, if you're anyone who is having suicidal thoughts, okay, that's not getting better. That's not good. That you need help at that point. You shouldn't wait any longer, because then it leads to something out of the blue that you're going to do to yourself, possibly, that could be something you can't come back from,
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling these thoughts, doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're less than a good person or anything like that. It means that you just need help. We all need help sometimes in different ways. Some people need financial help, right? Some people need physical help to get from their car, to the supermarket. Some people just need emotional help, and so if you feel like this, you got to call someone, whether it be a good friend, or you go to call a crisis, squad if you don't want to talk to your family about it, but you got to contact someone, because people can help work you through this. It doesn't mean that there's no going back just because you feel like that today, because tomorrow the sun will come up and it'll be a new day. And so you have to go seek help when you need it. And like I said, we all at some point in our life need help, as much as we don't want to believe that, as much as I always, after I lost my mom, when I was 14, I don't want to ask anyone for anything anymore. I'll do everything for myself. This way I don't need to I'm not going to lose anyone. Right. And so a lot of us do that. And so, but you have to be able to be willing to ask for help when you need it. And that's why you have friends, and that's why you have people who work at these places, these crisis hotlines and stuff like that, because we all need help, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. So if you're listening to this and you have thoughts and this is resonating with you, do something about it. Don't become another statistic, and that's super important.
Emotional pain, Dave, is the hardest pain to escape, because the often people don't know where the pain's origin is. It's not like I hurt my back.
Right.
Sitting in my chair and I call up Derek Farnsworth and he comes and works on my traps and it's gone in 1 hour.
Yep.
And you're training in the gym and you tear a calf and you ice it, use some ibuprofen for 3 days or 2 days, and it's gone, and you're working calves again in the next week. Emotional pain, just to scratch the surface of it, just to know where it comes from, is sometimes almost impossible to find.
Yeah, and a lot of people have pain because they don't feel like they have a purpose. And so if your purpose is bodybuilding, for instance, okay, which is what Luke's was, there's going to be downs, okay, and ups, obviously. And the ups are great. When you're placing third at the Arnold, you feel great. But then when there's downs like quarantine time or off season, or maybe you hurt yourself, like you said, pulled a calf or something, you can get depressed. So that's why I always tell everyone, you hear me say this all the time, find things that you're interested in, hobbies, passions that you have that you can engage in, that you don't necessarily have to make a living from, but just things that you really like. If you like to play video games, if you like to collect stamps, if you like to, go on nature walks, if you want to take pictures of birds outside, because that's whatever you enjoy doing, okay, do it. That's the time you do it, when you have the down time, when something's not going right in what your professional career is or what you're really geared towards. You have a second thing to fall back upon. And that is very important. And it helps make you a more balanced person, because we're all like that. Look, when I was bodybuilding, if I pulled a muscle, Chris, if I tore like a little muscle in the gym, I was in severe depression, for the next couple of days, because I'm like, that's it. My body, you think right away, that's it. You're not going to be able to compete. Bodybuilding's over. And because you're ridiculous, because you're so obsessed with making gains every single day that if you miss a day or 2 or 3, you think it's over. And that's why it was always important that I had something else to go to during those times. You know what? I'll just fuck bodybuilding. I'm just going to go and I'll do whatever. I was breeding cats at one time. I'm going to go buy some more supplies or buy another kitten or, whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to just immerse myself in that. And before you know it, a couple of days pass and you feel better, right? You get back to the gym. So you got to be able to work through those difficult times and not just give up on life. And that's, unfortunately what Luke had done. And, it's hopefully a message out to to everyone else out there that that's not the right route to take. And it's very unfortunate that we lost him, because like I said, he was, like you said, he was just not even getting in. He wasn't even in his prime. He was still approaching his prime, and he had unlimited ability. And who knows how far he could have gone in bodybuilding had he stuck with it. So, but Chris, the quarantine itself has really gotten a lot of people down. A good friend, Louis URIDEL, the big sexy. I don't know if you know, he owns a gym in Oceanside, California, Metroflex. And, they've been closed. And this is a relatively new gym. Louis decided he was going to open up despite the fact that they said no in California. And he got arrested. Did you see this?
No, I didn't.
Hold up. Yeah. He knew it was going to happen, but he did it anyway. He was on the news over there. And it's really atrocious what they're doing, because here's a guy who poured his whole, livelihood into this business. And, he put all his money into it. He loves the gym business. It's his. He's there every day. And they're telling him he can't stay open. And they actually, cops come and arrest him. Look at him. You can see the cops right there. They got the face masks on. they take the big sexy to jail. How messed up is that? Just because, and they said if we come back and it's still open, we'll arrest the next person who's here. And I think they actually said anyone who's at the gym they're going to arrest tomorrow or something like that. He said he's opening tomorrow again. So they took him away. Change my title here. Title. What's going on? I mean, you're an owner of stuff. I mean, what do you think? Do you think this is not right, that people shouldn't be allowed to run their businesses?
Well, if they can't run their businesses, then the government should be forcing his bank to suspend his mortgage indefinitely until he can run his business.
All right.
Simple as that. So instead of the government backstopping, which they are, the airlines, the government backstopping corporate bonds, the government's buying corporate debt, the government, backstopping every corporate entity, they should be backstopping Luke URIDEL so that he does not go bankrupt due to no reason of his own.
Right. Well, the restaurants, I know the restaurants down here in Florida opened up with obviously spaced out tables and, you know, a couple of restrictions. You can only have so many people there,
Yeah.
which is nice. I mean, I haven't gone out, but I mean, I don't know if I'll go to a restaurant now. I don't need to, but it's nice for people who are going stir crazy that they have a place to go,
Yeah.
you know? So I think I hear the gyms are going to be opening on a limited basis. Some people are telling me that some of the gyms in some of the states are opening, but you have to make like almost like a reservation because there's only so many people out in the gym at a time, and I think they're going to give you like an hour time allotments. I had one of my clients complain, I only have an hour to go to the gym. I'm like, what can't you do in an hour? Go to the gym.
You got to go to Dorian training. One step.
You got to go to the high intensity training. Yeah, you'll probably put on 10 pounds of muscle training like that. So it's like you once mentioned to me, you know how like you would show up at the gym and we're closing in 15 minutes. You're like, it's all right, I got my workout in, you know, and you run through your workout and you get the best workout of your life there, right?
Yeah. It's it's another week of closed businesses, and if most businesses, I mean, businesses run on margins. Margins are always small unless you're doing drugs or not paying taxes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or you're doing gambling, you're running. I mean, real businesses have small markups or small margins at the end of the day with a lot of overhead. And businesses are not built to small business to be able just to stay closed for 2 months and open up and everything. Oh, we had plenty of cash in the bank to carry us. Most businesses are just like funnels, especially restaurants. Money comes pouring in every single week, tons of sales, and it goes pouring out through payroll, rent, taxes, insurance. And at the end of the week, the restaurant owner gets his small 6% of the gross for the week, 8% of the gross, 10, 12%, 5%, depends.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're only getting that amount, there's only so much you sock away as a rainy day fund.
Right.
So, I mean, that's painful in itself.
No, it's true. It's true. Let's talk about something a little bit happier now. All right, we got Luke out of the way. We got Lewis getting arrested out of the way. By the way, you're moving around. You're making a lot of microphone noise. I don't know if you got to be careful.
I'm fidgety with the Luke thing.
Got to be careful. That microphone is very sensitive. And Kai Green, that's what I wanted to talk about. So did you see the Kai Green footage of him posing?
Yeah, I saw it.
What'd you think?
It looks decent.
Do you think we're seeing a comeback, or you think this is just some Kai marketing?
It's Kai marketing.
Well, how do you think he would do the way he looks in this posting footage?
Let me take a second look.
He looks pretty good to me, you know. Obviously, he's not saying he's contest ready, but I mean, he certainly is. I would say he's probably in 270s here, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really lean. He's got glutes. He's got hams. He's got striations. He's a little distended, but that's because he's not in contest shape. But look at the glutes. I mean, he's in pretty damn good shape.
Yeah, he looks. I mean, he's massive.
I mean, how would that have done it at last year's Olympia?
Just like that, it would be
hard to beat, right?
What? I mean, he'd be pretty high, just looking like.
I mean, looking like this. I mean, could he win the Olympia looking like this? And he would be a little drier if he took a diuretic.
I mean, his back and the back double's pretty crazy.
Pretty good look.
Yeah, he's impressive.
I mean,
but I don't think it's any hyped up anything for the Olympia. I just think that it's Kai being Kai. This is the way he runs around all year round. In other words, he's in good shape all the time. He's huge all the time. And I just don't think I don't know if Kai has the desire to be Mr. Olympia.
I think he does, but why do you think he wouldn't want to do the Olympia? He obviously has the tools still to win it.
He does.
I mean, there's no denying that. I mean, this might not be Olympia conditioning right there on stage. I mean, he's pretty close. I mean, he could probably in 3 weeks could be ready to do the Olympia.
In a month, he'd be peeled.
Yeah. So I mean, why? I mean, at this point, his contention with doing it initially was supposedly because he didn't get along with AMI. He didn't feel respected by them, which I can completely understand. Okay, I still think he should have sucked it up, but whatever. He didn't do it. Now they're not there. He's got Dan Solomon, who will probably go to the table with whatever he needs and provide it for him. Jake Wood, who's on our side now. He's not on the other side. Why wouldn't Kai say, I'm going to do the Olympia? I mean, if there is an Olympia this year, that's the next thing we're going to talk about.
For the simple, he may, and I could be wrong, but my gut is for the simple reason that you'd go to the gym every single morning as a person who potentially can win the Mr. Olympia because you want to be the Mr. Olympia, regardless of who's running it, regardless of how much you dislike them. The idea is to beat Phil, to beat Roden, to beat Broly, Ramy, Bonac, everyone who's been up there the last 4 years since Kai's not been in it. It's not to prove a point with promoters. I mean, I understand you have your ideals and people don't cross their own lines, but it's just odd that, you're throwing away prime years to prove a point.
The point proven. It was like the Muhammad Ali, who didn't want to go to into the army.
But there's no, but Muhammad Ali still wanted to fight.
No, I know what you're saying, but he was making a point. Yeah, but Muhammad Ali was making a point, and he was protesting something. Kai protested it. He won. AMI is gone. He's still here. The sports go on.
To compare Muhammad Ali's struggle to Kai Green's.
No, but what I'm saying is,
the bodybuilding promoter is like.
I was protesting something, even though it's not on the same scale as what Muhammad Ali did, obviously, which was a war. I mean, it was the same thing. He was saying, look, you know what? I don't need the sport. The sport needs me. And I'm not going to do this show because everyone else wants me to, because I don't like the way it's being run. Now it's not being run by the people that he had a problem with. So it's like, all right, Muhammad, you're at it. You don't have to do any jail time. You're right. You win. He went back to boxing, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean.
That being said, I mean, Kai obviously there's so many people who have the tools to win the show. I keep saying that, and I mean that. People ask me all the time when I do like Instagram lives during the coronavirus, to keep busy and just to connect with people. People ask me, who can win the Olympia? And so many names that come up, I say, yeah, he can win. It's just like when people say, who can be future Mr. Olympia? When Luke's name come up, I always say, yes, of course he can. There's like a, short list of like 4 up-and-comers who could. And then there's the established people who could too, which would be Phil, Kai, Roden, of course, Brandon, and there's more than them. So on any given day, at Kai's best, he's very hard to beat at his all-time best, so maybe he does, maybe he does jump into the Olympia. If Kai jumped into the Olympia, and if Phil jumped into the Olympia, and if these guys could get off the political bullshit and let Roden in the Olympia because they're retards for not, Jake is, Dan is. I mean, the case is, I know you'd want to hear that, Dave, but I mean, how long are they just going to?
What is the update with the case? Has it been postponed?
Who knows?
Well, I mean, Sean Roden would know, I guess.
I haven't talked to him about it. Just like I don't talk to Luke about depression. I mean, I don't talk.
Sean Roden's a good example to take it right here because think about it. And you're still making that noise, by the way. I know the fans are going to complain that your microphone is picking up a lot of rattling. But Sean Roden would have every reason to think about killing himself, right? Because here's a guy whose whole livelihood has been taken away from him until this court case is decided. And here's a guy who's mentally very strong because, I mean, look what he's gone through to actually even win the Olympia the first time. And now what he's going through now, whether he's guilty or not, that's not for us to decide. That's for a jury to decide. But he's very strong that he's been continuing to train to keep himself looking good, to try to stay mentally focused and in a good state. And that is very hard to do with given what he's dealing with. And now it's being delayed because of this whole quarantine thing. If I were him, he was supposed to be decided already. Wasn't the trial supposed to be in April? We're in May now, Chris.
They'll probably kick the case, my guess. Like, you know what? If you want to evict a tenant right now, you're looking at like September.
Right, but this is a rape trial. This is a serious thing.
It's not that serious in the scope of like how many cases they have in the state.
I understand that, but the whole life is on hold.
If it was that serious, they would. You know what? Maybe that's one thing to ponder for the promoters. If it was that serious, maybe they would have dragged him in from day one.
Exactly. He's obviously not a threat.
Kicking it. How long's it been?
Right. He's obviously not a threat to society.
My point is, you know what? If you want to have the best Olympia ever, Kai, Phil, Roden, of course, Brandon, Bonac, Dexter, Ramy, Rolly. That is a powerhouse, power lineup. And maybe if they have it in November, December, people will get to go see it.
Right. I'm here. They're having a venue issue.
We'll all probably be wearing masks. I'm sure they're having a venue issue. I'm sure.
Where do you think they're going to hold it?
Well, you know what? What happens is this, Dave. If you try to postpone it, it's everything that was probably going to be in July in Vegas. Everything that got canceled, they probably called up and say, "Can we have it in September?"
Yeah.
And things are like hotel rooms or air. It's a terrible comparison, but in like Airbnbs, they're booked 6 months in advance. Someone says, "Can I stay there?" In November, I say it's booked. They say it's booked. Yeah, everything's booked. You know what I mean? Things don't just, and something that big can't just. It's not like having the Long Island bodybuilding competition promoted by Dave and Chris and saying, "You know what? Oh, it got canceled. We're going to move it." You call them up, the auditorium. They say, "Yeah, we got September. We got December. What do you want to have it?"
Sure.
Yeah, we'd like to move the event. That means coordinating the Orleans with the convention center. How do you know the convention center is going to be available the same weekend as the Orleans? So the Orleans is, the logistics are insane.
If they think that number one, there's going to be a lack of sponsors, okay, which there probably is going to be. There's no doubt about that. And there's going to be a lack of audience, okay, because you might have spacing. You might have to space people out. Who knows, to even get them in the auditorium. Then you don't need a venue the size of the Orleans, So as you go to a smaller and smaller venue, it becomes a little easier. And why not hold it at like the Beacon Theater? They used to have it with the Night of Champions at. Have it in Manhattan right there. Or go to Iowa and have it at some convention center there. I bet you they have nicer convention centers in Iowa than they probably have in Vegas, except no one goes there. They just, they go there for farm conventions, But you can go there and have it, and you don't have to worry about the whole population who's got coronavirus. Whereas New York City, Vegas, I'm sure those could be hot spots. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to make an announcement. I understand in the next week or so, and we'll find out what the plan is. But you know what? What we've seen, Chris, is that the plan is subject to change because we've already seen shows canceled and moved multiple times already this year. I think we will see a season. I think it's going to start. It's going to be probably half of what it was going to be, but I think we'll have half a season this year, and then they're going to have to. I know they combine the USA with the Masters USA now, which is going to take place, I think, in December or November, whatever. They moved the Masters. They moved everything, but that's great. Hopefully we'll be able to get some shows in and make do with what we can do. That's all these it's amazing that these promoters can make anything happen at this point.
Wouldn't it be crazy if that lineup that I just said for the Olympia comes to fruition and they say we're limiting the Olympia to only 1,200 seats because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, but they'll have to charge $5,000 a seat. I bet they'll fill every one of them. Probably.
Of course they would. They would actually. People would.
VIP seating. You have no one 6 feet to your left, your right, or back, or in front of you. You have your own. You have your own section basically. They should make like little box seats, for you could bring your family, like a picnic. So we're laughing, but you know what? Look, we're in some crazy times right now, and we have to make do. That's really all it amounts to.
I mean, to some degree, it's. I mean, what a year,
Yeah.
Just
what about Josh LENARTOWICZ retiring? What do you think about that?
He retired.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, he hinted it on his page as much. I'll pull up that in a second here. Let me see where we're at. He said basically, if I can't be better than I was before, and I've always said this in the past too, then why should I continue to compete? Which is, I understand that.
In Josh's case, you have to compete. You have to train with the caveat in the back of your mind that won't go away. Do I have a health issue that might be affected by heavy training? Right.
Yeah. The picture on the left, he said, was taken at Flex Lewis's gym. The last week before the Tampa Pro in 2017. The photo on the right was taken at Ben Pekulski's gym. So I've met some great people. In my career, for me, bodybuilding has always been to reach a personal best. And if the judges say I am the winner on that day, I'm extremely grateful. But winning has never been the goal. Personal improvement has been the goal, and winning is a byproduct of that improvement. I was really in a great place in bodybuilding from 2015 to 17. If I compare my stage weight, whatever, if I compare my stage photos from 2019 to 20 against 2015 for 17, I know that I'm regressing. I know the hardships I have faced and contributed to this, but when I'm not improving, I'm not enjoying the process or the passion, or I'm passionate about bodybuilding. Life's too short to spend on something you're not in love with. So I've made the decision to not compete again until I can prove to myself that I'm in my personal best, or unfortunately, I will never be competing again. I don't think he's retiring. I think he's taking a break. Yeah, taking a big break. Bodybuilders never really retire, do they? Anyway, Chris.
No, because what happens is Josh will go to the Arnold, and there'll be like a weak lineup, and they'll say like, "Gosh, even when I'm not at my best, I think I could have beat those guys." Right. That's what happens because it's in your DNA.
The guy had brain surgery. I mean, he should never have tried to do, the Arnold after that. He should have taken a full year off, even though who the hell wants to take that much time off? Because you don't want to show up at less than your best. And I think that's, remember, one of his best friends, Dallas McCarver, died. That was the first, thing. And then he gets a brain tumor. So I mean, that's a lot to go through. He had the birth of his kid. I mean, he should have just chilled out and just relaxed for taking off the year and regrouped, and which would have given him almost 2 years, because this year is a wash anyway. So imagine if he would have taken 2 years off and then come back. I think he would have been, for 2021, I think he would have been great. But we'll see what happens. Josh is a really good guy. Like you only want to see the best for the guy, and so I think when people show up at less than their best, you feel bad for them, because he's not an asshole. He's like just a cool guy, and he's good for the sport. So, Josh, take your time you need. You know what I mean? You're still young. The sport's not going anywhere. So, I think he'll be back. I think we're just going to see him take a break.
When you tell people they're still young, no one believes that.
No. Wait till they get to our age, then they'll know they're young.
What I mean is people that is a statement that just goes through bodybuilders, they don't believe that.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? Why does everyone think that they're pressed for time all the time?
I don't know. Let's see. They think they're pressed for time because they They want to accomplish what they want to accomplish now. And then they probably have this idea of like, well, Wheeler was like 24 when he was on top, and Sean Ray was 22, and Levrone was young, and you know what I mean? They go through the list of people who did it young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Phil Heath was always Phil Heath used to always, when they would interview him at the Olympia before he was winning, he was like, I know my time's going to come. I'm still young. I'm growing. I'm taking my time. He was very, very mature about that whole. He knew he was going to come into his own, and he knew he couldn't rush it, and he just was enjoying the process, you know, which I thought was a pretty mature attitude, especially because he did come into his own and take over. You know,
4 years ago, Dex was 46 and still telling people he's young.
You're right, and he is.
Keep going.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? What about Mike Tyson? Did you see Mike Tyson hitting the mitts?
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
Someone offered Tyson $20 million. This bare knuckles boxing division or organization. They offered him $20 million to fight. You know, I think Shannon Briggs. Remember Shannon Briggs?
Oh yeah, I know Shannon Briggs. Yeah.
He was a metrics guy. I think pretty much. I think Tyson would do anything for $20 million. I don't think there's anything that he probably wouldn't do for $20 million. But think about it now. You know what's going to happen. All these other organizations are going to say, "What? With bare knuckles, are going to give Tyson $20 million? They must know they're going to make money on this." And then all of a sudden you go, because I don't think Tyson really wants a bare knuckle box anyone. I think he would like to wear real boxing gloves.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, because he's a boxer. He's not a bare knuckle guy. I mean, it's like saying a body. I mean, that's a stretch. Bodybuilder can do a strongman, but you know what I mean.
Although I don't know anyone in their right mind who would want to get into the ring, but I don't care how old Tyson is with bare knuckles, you know.
Yeah, or with gloves. A lot of people don't want to get in there with gloves.
Right, but imagine bare knuckles. Yeah, I'm getting hit with Tyson's fucking fists.
Yeah. So he's going to make a comeback and do some charity events. That's
what he says initially, but I think he pulled a Kai Green. Matter of fact, in my Kai Green video that I did in the analysis of his posing, I said Kai's pulling a Tyson or Tyson's pulling a Kai because Tyson's putting his feelers out there to see who's interested. And all these people are biting now, and he's getting people all juiced up, and we want to see Tyson. Now the money's going to start flowing. Can you imagine if someone offered Kai Green $20 million to do the Olympia? You think Kai would do it then? Of course he would.
You know who trains? Do you know who trains Mike Tyson?
No, who does?
Brad Rowe.
Oh, really? In the gym?
Not regularly, but he does. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I guess they're buddies.
Good for him.
Because
that's a good hookup, especially if Tyson does make a comeback.
Well, I think Brad hooks him up with that machine. You know, the machine that.
Oh my God, does he really?
Yeah.
That's great. It's good sales pitch, right? If you got Tyson on the machine.
No, he doesn't run around broadcasting it, but that's what he told me.
Right. That's good. Good for him. It's a good client to have.
Yeah.
But think about it. If someone offered Kai, let's put it in bodybuilding. We have to downscale it for bodybuilding. People
are going to crucify you for. People hate when you bring up Kai. They said, "Dave, stop with the Kai."
Well, Kai puts the footage out there and he looks great. What am I going to do? It wasn't like he looked like a bag of shit, you know.
Dave, I have always said Kai is not coming back ever. And I.
Well, but you don't think if someone put
you have a point. You have a point that with Dan and Jake. Yeah. It does change the equation. What
if Jake says to Kai, I'll give you $500,000 if you do the show? Appearance fee. Tyson's getting $20 million.
Ready to sign on.
Yeah, he'll be signing on the dotted line for sure.
Yeah.
That's what he's waiting for, is really what it amounts to. He's putting out his feelers.
You mean
the problem is the bodybuilding
Kai or Tyson or both?
No, like both of them. But I think but the problem is in boxing, they'll put the money out for Tyson because they know they could sell out the moon if they had to watch Tyson fight again. Kai can sell out the auditorium for sure.
Without a doubt.
And that's why Kai can't understand why AMI wouldn't put the money up for it. But I guarantee you Jake would put some money up to get Kai up there. And if that's really what Kai's waiting for, guys, if you're listening to me, Jake, Dan, fucking give him the money. Ask him what he wants. Put it up. You guys will make it back. Trust me.
Who'll be the first one to get pissed?
But did they put up money for Kai?
Yeah.
Sean Ray. No, probably Phil.
That's right. Bingo. We should go on the bodybuilding game show game, of course. And rightfully so, because he's beaten him every time, and he's a 7-time guy, and
Sure.
you got to put up the money for me.
Well,
So
they should put some money up for Phil too.
Yeah,
I think Kai is more of a calling card because he hasn't won the Olympia yet. But yeah, Phil deserves an appearance fee too.
Kai is a calling card because anything and everything could happen. He could pull out of the show. He could get injured. He could fall on the treadmill. All the drama. He could.
That's what makes it so exciting.
He could miss the press conference. He could yell at the press conference. He could sing a song at the press conference. He could come in and off. He could come in the greatest shape of all time, bar none.
Maybe we should get Tyson to fight Kai Green in the ring. How about that?
Maybe we could get them to do a press conference together.
Yeah. Tyson will be like, what the fuck are you talking about? After Kai gives an answer.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? What would you say? Anyone know what he means? Oh, Tyson's great. I think both of them have great personalities, and they're both great for their perspective sports because they excite people. They get people wanting to go see them. Whether win, lose, draw, whatever. You want to see Tyson fucking fight again. I don't know why. It's something. It's like a fantasy we all have because we all grew up watching Tyson knocking the crap out of people.
Not only that, but then you get the comparisons to George Foreman did it, even though he's much younger.
Yeah. But it was like the Levrone. When the Levrone come, everyone wanted to see what could Levrone do. Can he really do it? Can he put the muscle on again? Yeah. I wanted to see it, man.
Who has a better chance? You know what, though? After seeing, who knows with Tyson?
The difference is that Kai has the muscles. Kai has the muscle still. So it's not like an outlandish thing to say Kai can come win the Olympia. He has the physique. It's not like he can't do it.
Does Kai have more? Let's go through it. Let's do the quiz. Kai have more muscle than Dexter?
Absolutely.
Hardy?
He's got more muscle than ever. There's no one. Maybe Rulli.
Let me ask you this.
Or Ramy.
Is it a bodybuilding contest?
Yeah.
I mean, so he's already has.
Does he have the most mature, separated, freaky muscle of anyone out there? Yes. Is he one of the best posers up there? Yes.
He's like suddenly the odds-on favorite.
Well, I mean, he always has been on paper. That doesn't. But Kai, because Kai can't translate paper to reality. That's the problem, and that's why he hasn't won the Olympia yet. But he's also never really finished out of the top, 5 ever. Really, I mean, think about it. Since he's been running, and he's been second a million times. So, I mean, here's your chance, Kai. Man, it's an off crazy year. Who knows who's going to show up? And you know what? Even if the best of the best shows up, he can still win the show. That's looking at that video. I mean, you're an experienced guy. Don't take my word for it. You looked at the video. Can that physique? If that physique came to you and says, "Hey, Chris, I want you to help me. Can we win the Olympia?" What would you say?
Yeah, he can win for sure.
Okay, so I mean, there you go. There's the answer.
One of the, he's one of the 5. He's one of the 5 who can. But he has the most density and level of maturity to his muscle than any of the 5. So because he has the most density and maturity, he has the ability to come in a little bit off and still look like he's 100% on.
Yeah.
He just can't be like, nobody can win off. But he can be a little off and still look like he's on because, you got all that dense, thick, hard muscle.
Sure.
And flex it, even if it's covered with a little fat and a little water.
Still freaky, yeah.
It still looks freaky.
I'm glad we ended today's show on a high note because it started on a low note, but I like people to think when they leave the show and they shuffle off into their rest of their day or whatever, whenever they listen to us, that they're smiling. They're saying, "Yeah, I want to see Kai on stage again." If you want to see Kai on stage, like this video, send Kai a little message on Instagram. Tell him, Kai, make it happen. Dan Solomon, Jake Wood, if you're listening out there, you want to save this year's Olympia, you get Kai Green on that stage. Guarantee you'll put seats wherever you want it, wherever the seats got to be. We got to watch from the top of the Empire State Building or from my house on closed circuit, as they used to say, pay-per-view, whatever you got to do, I think people would pay money to see Kai Green. I would, wouldn't you? If you had to pay for like a live stream of the Mr. Olympia competition, you knew Kai was making a comeback and you couldn't get out there, would you pay the $10 or whatever they would charge?
I would pay the $10, and I think a lot of people would pay to see the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they did it, an alternative would be to do a real inside look, like a pay-per-view on people, who potentially can win that show, like an inside peek on not the bull,
like make it a whole program, like make it like a whole
or a 2 weeks out preview show. What's Hadi Chopin doing? What's Brandon Curry doing?
Or do like Mitsuri used to do the Road to the Olympia. Maybe have that filmed leading up to the show, and then you show it the night before the show.
Yeah, have it and just try to make it real and try to make it not staged and phony.
Right.
Which is hard to do because I know people are prepping for shows and their, the patience is, limited and their energy is limited. But it could be something different to generate, interest in the show, to generate money for the show. I think people want to see these guys on stage. Absolutely. The prejudging is everything, but people love to get true insight.
Change the business model because we're in a quarantine right now. People are training from their house. You send out a crew of people, a couple people, to videotape, get footage. You have video editors on your staff there. You put the stuff together. You create an Olympia special that you're going to charge, whatever you charge for. I don't know, $19, whatever it is. If you get 100,000 people to watch it, you fucking paid for the Olympia, all your prize money and everything. And you don't have to have 1 million people in the venue, okay? You sell a limited amount of seats if you want, VIP seats, $1,000 ticket, whatever you want to do. But most people will sit home because of this quarantine, and they'll watch it from the house, and they'll pay the $20 because they're bodybuilding fans. You got Kai Green on that stage, and maybe Phil Heath and Sean Roden, or like Chris said, it could be a bonanza. You change the business model. You change how you do the Olympia. Because you know what? We're going to all have to learn how to do things just a little different now because society is changing. Whether people want to believe it or not, it's not going to go back to the way it was. People are going to be afraid of getting this virus. It's not going to go away anytime soon. And there might be another virus that comes up next year. Who knows? We don't know what's going on. So maybe we have to change the way we view these things. And if we have the ability with the internet now to see up to the minute, up to the second what's going on, it's very cheap, the technology to be able to put this stuff up. It's not like it cost $1 million to run a broadcast like years ago. Maybe it's something to consider, right? I mean, so if I don't want to leave my house and I want to sit at home and watch the whole affair, whether it be for prejudging and the like you said, the lead up to the show, the Road to the Olympia, you guys have everything. You package it up and you put it up there. People pay the money, and you got a successful show, at least for this year. And then maybe next year, who knows? Maybe everything will go back to normal. I don't know. And then you can restore the way you do your normal coverage. But I think this is something that has to be addressed. I'm sure the AMI, I'm sure Jake Wood and Dan has probably been sitting around brainstorming, figuring out what to do. If this maybe a couple of ideas we threw out today could be utilized, that's great. But get Kai Green on that stage. I don't care if people are mad at me for saying it, but I want to see Kai Green on that stage. I know it can happen. If we can get Tyson back in the ring, we can get Kai Green back on the Olympia stage.
Well, did Kai post that video to get people hyped up to he's like on a ballot, the write-in candidate?
Yeah, he's the feel-good candidate. He could save bodybuilding for 2020. Remember the year 2020 when bodybuilding almost died? People, gave up on the sport. Well, guess what? Kai Green resurrected it, and he won the Olympia, and he cemented his legacy for bodybuilding. He achieved the thing he had when he was 13 years old. And he started training that he wanted to win more than anything else in life, the Olympia. He finally achieved that, and then they could write the Kai Green story, and then you got the perfect documentary right there.
People would pay another $20 for the victory speech.
It might be the longest speech of all time, though. He might want to have Cedric write that speech for him, Cedric will write it before. Kyle just have to memorize it. Like, how Kai had that one-man show for a while?
Oh, yeah.
He was doing. Cedric will write the speech. Kai, take Cedric, write the speech, Cedric, and then Kai can just memorize it and perform it because he's a performing guy anyway. Because if he tries to do it spontaneously, it might extend the live stream another 2 hours. So, and then they may have to get how they get these guys that come in and who do they're experts in Shakespeare, and they will break down every word that the Shakespeare writes, and they'll interpret it and all the innuendos and the metaphors. They'll have to hire those guys to interpret the victory speech. Yeah, he actually meant this here, and he was,
Yeah, they put it in the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, and they'll sell it in that book. Yeah, right. The Cliff Notes, right, exactly.
He can sell it. Kai can sell it on his Instagram.
There you go.
The Cliff Notes to the speech.
Cliff Notes to Kai's speech, or the Kai's victory speech for dummies. They have that other book series where everything's for dummies.
Maybe we're going to get a Kai announcement. I don't know.
You never know.
Very interesting that he'd post in pose and trunks.
Yeah.
Mandatories.
Mandatory poses, yeah.
And we're what? 20 weeks out or whatever it is. 16?
Well, no, there's no Olympia in September. Come on. It's not going to happen.
Who predicted that?
You did, but you said the whole season was going to be canceled, which you still might be right, but I don't think so. I think that we'll see the Olympia probably in December. That's my guess.
No, I think the Olympia is going to happen. You know what? I said Athleticon was going to get canceled for sure, and it is. Is
that confirmed? Okay.
And that was simply based on the idea. Yes, it's confirmed.
It would be stupid to hold a first year show on a year like this. It would be ridiculous.
Just the speculation of the money you got to plow into it.
Sure.
And then what happens, the unknown. So that was an easy guess. It was a guess. And the Olympia, the flip side, is in the same position. It's the new promoter, first time doing it, but he has to do it simply because it creates that gap year. And what happens to everything the next year? What happened who won the Olympia in 2020? Oh, they didn't have it. They would have to have it if things even get worse. Let's say they got even worse for some reason. Mm-hmm. He's still going to have the show. Regardless.
In some capacity, they have.
In some capacity, you're going to have it because somebody has to, whether it be Brandon or anyone else, has to receive the legacy going.
Right. I told you there was that year. Sergio won it when no one showed up. No one wanted to contest against him.
Right.
He won it. So if Brandon shows up in posing trunks, he wins. That's how it goes. And that's going to be it for tonight. We're going to wrap this thing up, as we say every week. Remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week. We send our prayers and condolences out to the family of Luke Sandoe.